Mr. Kagans, what has been your relationship as trade unions to the government, the education sector? How is it?
Yeah, of course, the relationship is extremely important. You know that historically, employers don't love organized workers because they would want you to remain weak and they exploit you to the maximum. So whenever a union is formed, in most cases, the employer is not happy, and especially the government, who is the chief employer in terms of our education sector. So even for us, ever since we are formed, government has not invited us. For example, Ministry of Education has never invited us and say, you liberal teachers, you organize it, you are recognized, because we signed a recognition agreement with the government and the Ministry of Public Service for our workers in public employment. But the Ministry of Education does not need to consider us. They should be calling us, inviting us on policy, because one of our greatest mandate is to look at the policy of education, how that policy is made, how does the policy impact on our teachers, so that we evaluate and appreciate that policy. So I think in a way it has been a bit weak, but it seems there is also segregation in government, because I think the Ministry of Education in Uganda, they think that the only union that is supposed to represent teachers is UNATU, and the unions call UNATU, and they forget that there are other unions which government has registered, which government has recognized. For example, Uganda Liberal Teachers Union, they are also Science Teachers Union now. Then there is also Private Teachers Union, which is exclusive for private. So these unions should be brought on board to discuss a number of issues on policy, on the systems that go on in education. Because if you call these people and discuss with them, you are talking to the employee in the classroom. Because some of us as unions, we are not here by promotion. No, we are just here because of leadership. So you don't have to go and fill forms and they say you must have a master's degree or a PhD to become a leader of the union. You just come up because of the qualities of leadership that are in you and that members look into you, and then they give you mandate. We are very democratic institution, so you have to be elected. So the relationship is not good. That one I can say for sure, as for us in Uganda Teachers Union. Secondly, this issue of paying some section of teachers and linking others, I think it is becoming very, very painful to our teachers, especially those teachers of humanities, teachers who teach subjects like history, commerce, geography, entrepreneurship, and so on, which are not categorized under science. But also teachers in primary section, teachers in the private sector, teachers in the nursery school section. They are not happy. I think government is now, it is only the science teachers in secondary school who are happy, because they are going to be paid 4 million for graduates and 3 million for diploma holders. And you can imagine, for us diploma holders, you find they are at 500,000 shillings. So that relationship must not be called as good, because if government brings and promotes that kind of segregation, then I think it is creating a lot of animosity amongst the workers, and as unions, we come out very, very strongly to oppose that.
Well, thank you very much. If I may understand this more in detail, who is that teacher that deserves to be a member of this union? What are the qualities? What must he be having? Something like that.
Now, of course, trade unionism is something, is not very old, especially for professionals in Uganda and teachers as such. Because in Uganda, trade unionism started way back in 2002. That's when the first trade union of teachers was registered. But now I have told you we have 4 registered trade unions. In Uganda Liberal Teachers Union, we allow teachers to join us, and we have what we call membership enrollment forms. These forms are available, and we extend them to every teacher. Because for us, we don't segregate. If somebody is a nursery teacher and wants to join this union, is most welcome. He or she just fills on that form and submits the form to our secretariat. Actually, we have our office in Ntinda, on Karnabil Road, where our secretariat is. So they can go there. But we're also doing business online, so that if these forms are extended, you download it, you fill it, and then you can send it back, and we recognize you as our member. So we have teachers in nursery schools, teachers in primary schools all over the country, teachers in secondary schools, whether science or arts or whatever, entrepreneurship, all those ones, we bring them on board. For us, we are all embracing. That's why we call ourselves an umbrella trade union of teachers. We even have lecturers in universities who are professional teachers in post-secondary institutions. So all of those, we bring them on board. And when they join, they fill that form. And as a union, we are funded, and our capacity is built from the membership. So when you join a union, you are supposed to start subscribing. And for us as a union, a member subscribes only 1% of his or her monthly salary. And then it's us, the secretariat, collect that subscription in line with the employer, so that that subscription comes to the union. And the purpose of that subscription is to run the activities of the union, to advocate and to promote the interests of the members. So when you are a member, you are enrolled, you are subscribing, now you have your entitlement as a member of the union. You demand more benefits than just waiting to say that policy has changed and you benefit as a teacher. So that's the kind of process that we go through to bring out members.
Yeah, we are seeing some different government policies that are coming on board, like upgrading a requirement for every teacher to have a degree, and the majority of our teachers in the country there, in the district where we come from, they are diploma, they are grade 3s. How is that going to affect your members?
Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, we have very serious misgivings with some of these unions which have been around and have built capacity, whom we think they would be able to do that. For example, UNAT has been very quiet about that. And we are also concerned about UNAT because you cannot collect all the money. For example, you collect like around 400 billion every month. And there is nothing you can show for the teachers. So they should have come up and challenged that policy. They go to ministries on policy review meetings, but they are doing nothing, either because they don't know or they don't want. So that policy is very detrimental to our teachers, because for us as a union, we demand, actually we appreciate the aspect that a quality teacher is a better trained teacher. So if you train and get a degree, we hope you are a better teacher than another teacher trained otherwise. Now, but the process is, how do you go to that degree? And what did you get out of the degree at the end of the day? In Uganda, we used to have a policy where somebody would go and upgrade, and then that would translate in the status of salary. But this one stopped some years back. Now teachers train is with a certificate. He moves from a certificate, he goes at a diploma, to degree, to masters. We even have PhDs in primary schools. But the salary remains that of a certificate. So that's a very, very serious challenge. Now, if you want to require, because this policy has come up, they say they were giving teachers 10 years, and now I'm told that the 10 years are getting expired, that now they are remaining with about 6 years, that whoever doesn't have a degree should leave the classroom. I think that one is good about quality, but you cannot get quality if you don't pay for it. Do we see the salary of a teacher improving from that one of a certificate holder to that one of a degree holder and a PhD holder? So the employer must make sure that if you get those requirements, the payment must equally change, be uplifted to meet the standards of the training of the teachers that you are employing. So now what we are trying to say is that the government is unfair to the teachers, absolutely unfair. You cannot say we want a degree. There is no program of staff development. There used to be in-service training. We no longer hear of in-service training. Teachers trained the way you left a classroom, a lecture room, wherever you were training, a college. The knowledge you got there is the knowledge you go with. Maybe you continue learning from the students you are teaching, and then the books and some other exposure. But the kind of core training remains at where you left the college. So that's a challenge. Now, if these teachers are going to go for training, they are going to pay, because government does not pay. There is no process, there is no any provision to say that we are going to sponsor your training to gain degrees. So that's a very, very serious, I think, attack on the incomes of the teacher, because you are getting very little pay. You are not going to pay for a degree. And even after getting that degree, we still remain with the pay of a certificate. So now, as a union, we are facing those challenges. Teachers are moving massively because they are scared of losing their job. So miserable teachers are going for further studies. We don't condemn trainings, but what environment is there for these teachers? Now, little pay, take it to the college, now to the university, study for a degree. Now teachers are leaving classrooms for sure. We must be very serious on a lookout, because massively, most of our teachers, especially up country in our districts, in our local authorities, in our cities, even in cities, maybe Kampala could be different, but most of them are certificate holders, many diploma holders. So that means the mass of the teachers must go for further training as a matter of necessity in order to retain their jobs. That means our learner is being left unattended too. You may concoct grades and say performance is good, but from that experience, we must know that the levels of the teaching learning process must be going down. So schools are remain unattended because everybody is going to study for a degree, and they go for holidays in some of the universities. Now, even if they go for holidays, when they are leaving, they are given take homes, they are given courseworks constantly, they are given study modules and so on. So they don't have time for our learners. Two, families are disintegrating at a very high rate. A mature man like me at my age, I'm supposed to be seated at home and looking at my children and grandchildren. But now you are fumbling with coursework, what, photocopying here and there. You don't have time for your family. So that means in holidays, instead of the teachers going to also take care of their families, they are leaving their families, going for studies. The husband is studying in Mukono. The wife is studying in Kasese. What kind of family do you have? Now you are going back to student life. You are getting new pals, new colleagues, new what, everything. Do you think the family is secure at that level? So if we have a lot of what they call domestic violence, which they say is rampant, we must look at some of those causes and why families are breaking down. So as teachers, we are not comfortable with that kind of practice. There is need to modify and make it more user-friendly. Why can't government roll out a program of training all her teachers upgrade to that level? Why can't there be a continuous process of upgrading a section of teachers and then others come on board gradually? Or why can't they say we want only graduate teachers, but we still have diplomas and certificates? Why don't we allow them to phase out? Because I think that there is even some laws which are being compromised. Because for us in public service, teaching service, our conditions are that once a teacher is enrolled, is registered, is confirmed, the terms are that teacher is employed on permanent and pensionable terms. Now, if you threaten him that you don't have a degree and you are going to lose your job, that means you are violating those terms of service. So the teachers must be protected in that line. Whether degree or no degree, our teachers must remain in class. And we are advocating as a union. We want that policy reviewed. We can review it through advocacy, through negotiations with the ministry and other stakeholders so that that policy is reviewed. Otherwise, it violates the rights of the teacher and it violates the contracts, the terms and conditions of services under which the teacher works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaganzi. We have of late had the issues to do with wealth declaration by the government, and most of the teachers that we have talked to seems to be very uncomfortable with the declaration to the government on what is on the kind of the little salary they pay. Could it be that because it is a little salary, then teachers should not be declaring to the government? What is your opinion?
Yeah, of course, when we look at the declaration of wealth law under the Inspectorate of Government, for us, in our wisdom, we feel that that law is put there in most cases to check corruption, to ensure that public funds, which are in trust of individuals, are taken care of. They are well protected and well used. Okay. Now, the first statement I must say is that if you look at the wealth index and poverty index levels in Uganda, most of our teachers are under the poverty category because they don't have any wealth to talk about. If you carried out a census among the teachers, and for us we have been moving, there are few teachers who own land in Uganda, apart from the inherited pieces from their forefathers. If you can now put a question and say, how many teachers, how many of you have bought a piece of land, either in town or in your villages? There are very few. There are very few teachers now who have houses, who have lived in houses, in decent houses. They are either staying in these small houses at school, or when they go home, they stay in the homes of their parents. Now, actually, it is also a very funny dilemma that most of the teachers want to work and retire as teachers so that they can get a package to go and build a house at home. Now, of what use is such a house? Because your children have grown up in Mzugos, okay? Now, for you have been living in a Mzugo. Now you are retired, you are building a house. What is that house going to help you? It's just a living testimony that you also existed. But otherwise, there is no way that house is going to help in the quality of life that you are supposed to live as a worker or as any good human being. So, I think that part of wealth declaration is also done in bad faith. And we feel some of these policies are just to scare our teachers and to intimidate them, and even to make them hate the teaching profession, and some of them to lose jobs. Because if I'm not an accounting officer, why are you suspecting me that you want to count what the little silver I have at home? Nothing. So I think that law should be targeting people who receive and account for money from government. We are not against government's efforts to fight corruption, but you fight it among the people who actually corrupt. How is a classroom teacher corrupt? How does he misquander public funds? So maybe this policy would apply to, the law actually would apply to maybe head teachers, those who receive money from government or from parents and they are supposed to account for it. Then it can also apply to education officers and these others who are at managerial levels. So for us, we strongly condemn, and we are going even to attack that law using all the possible available means. In fact, we are writing a petition to the Speaker of Parliament and to the leader of government business, that is the Right Honorable Prime Minister. We want to contest that law, and we don't want anybody, any teacher, to be harassed that because he or she has not declared wealth and therefore should be harassed or should be made to sanctions should be put on him. So him or her. So now we are challenging that law. First of all, it is ridiculous. If you are declaring wealth, declare wealth, but not poverty. So we don't want that law, and we are ready to challenge it.
So, Mr. Kaganis, what is wealth according to you? Because I have seen teachers who have even good apartments. What is wealth?
Yeah,
is it more money salary? That is when you should declare.
Yeah, of course. Wealth, there are some who could have. I may not be aware of that, but the most important thing, there could be a teacher, but some of them are either head teachers or directors of schools. Those ones are also called teachers. But on average, if we took a census, as I mentioned, there are few teachers who have what you call wealth. Few teachers with cars. You have been moving into these districts. How many cars do you pass by that are driven by a classroom teacher, apart from a head teacher and a director? So that is food for thought. Then you have. Okay,
thank you very much, Mr. Kaganizi. Recently the Ministry of Education had brought out an issue on children or students in school to use phones, and we appreciated it. We felt like it is something sound because the things have been overtaken by events. Today we have a smartphone which you cannot find it a description of smartphone or WhatsApp in any library in Uganda. Things are changing. Later on, the policy was withdrawn. As an advocate for teachers, do you think Uganda we are ready to have children in school possess phones?
Yeah. Now
possess computers.
Of course, one of the factors which either describe or put us back in terms of development, human development, is those biases and perceptions and prejudices. Some of them we call them cultural, but they are social and environmental. Now, one of the biggest challenges that the world is moving into the ICT world. Everything is online. So for us, we are saying it is even much late. Should have been done yesterday. Personally, as a union, but we also, from experience and understanding, there shouldn't be anything to harbor a learner. In fact, we should be encouraging all the children to be taking these tablets in schools to learn typing skills, to learn manipulating the computer and accessing knowledge and sharing knowledge. But of course, we need to have some input to ensure that these gadgets are well used. But I think there is a perception that all these gadgets, online gadgets and computers and so on, are just there for negative ends. They are not. So many countries have started, even when the lockdown came, many countries continued studying and education was going on online. So we are a bit behind, and for us, we are advocating that it's high time we advocate e-learning. It has a very, very, very great impact on the learning and teaching outcomes. But of course, our teachers, most of us are illiterate about ICT, so we need to train ourselves and also train our learners, but also to advocate all other stakeholders to appreciate that we are now living in the electronic world, the world of electronics, so we have to move to the digital world.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Kaganizi. As you are aware that Kaganizi is the President General of Uganda Liberal Teachers
Union,
and here at District Focus we have been discussing today. One last thing is, Mr. Kaganizi, talk about you are advocating for all teachers, but we really understand that nursery teachers and the pre-nursery teachers, they are not yet on the system. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think we are developing a concept where we want to compare government as the chief employer of teachers to take up nursery and pre-primary education as part of the education component, and the teachers, they are supposed to start paying, because that element has been left out, and it's a very, very crucial aspect in terms of education. Nursery teachers, they are the ones who bring these children into the school and the learning system, and they do a lot of changing these learners from their home perspective to an education perspective. In fact, they should be paid even much more than the so-called science teachers. But also, as a union, we are advocating for a basic pay for our teachers who work in private schools. If that one also becomes possible, so that every teacher who is employed, there must be a level at which we are supposed to employ that teacher. If you can't manage, then don't think about going to start a school. Otherwise, we feel there is a lot of change on policy, and we can still share. We are actually working with a project, a global project, on the extension of human rights education. We are looking at all those aspects which can make every learner access education and is retained in school, and then get what we call quality education. Quality education must be result-oriented, create employment and reduce poverty.
Thank you very much. Maybe the last moment is that probably you could tell us about your membership, your branch networks, or your briefcase union.
No, wonderful. Uganda Liberal Teachers Union, we are blessed. We have a growing membership. Now we are at 35 fully enrolled members. We have branch network all over the country, and I think our branch network is now going to up to 67 branches which are active. 67 branches which are active, but we also have members almost in every district in this country. And so when you talk of briefcase, that is what we fight, and ours is based on what we call structural leadership, maybe a democratic or corporate leadership, where we have the secretariat that is fully functional, where we have the leadership that is democratic and elected. And if you go through that process, you will never have a briefcase union, and we can't have it in Uganda Liberal Teachers Union.
Thank you very much. Members, I ask you to subscribe, to log in to our website, districtfocus.co.ug. We follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Otherwise, we'll be hosting this gentleman regularly, and please keep tuned in. Thank you very much.